What's on My Mind with Victoria Robinson, and I'm here with my daughter Tawni Jehnke today, who is actually, I wanted to let you know, she is an RN, and we are having a discussion this morning that a lot of you are messaging me about. I'm seeing so many untruths being spewed out by the pro-abortion side that we want to dispel today. I wanted you to hear from two guys who are dear friends of mine, but they're also OBGYNs, and between them, I'm not sure how many decades of experience they have. We'll ask them. But if you're somebody who is seriously searching for answers to questions that are pressing, things you're seeing and it's making you panic or confusing you, then this is going to be the show to watch. These guys are physicians. They're practicing right now. They've been practicing, and they have no reason to come on here and tell you any untruth. So they're going to dispel the lies that you're hearing about ectopic pregnancy and miscarriage. So Tawni, thanks for being here. And let's bring in Dr. Omar Hamada. Hey, Omar.
Hey, Victoria. Hey, Tawni.
Now, do I need to call you doctor?
What?
Do I need to say Dr. Hamada?
Well, for you, yes. Tawni can call me.
I get to call you Omar.
Sure.
Hey, we're so happy you're here. We're waiting for Dr. Brent Boles to come on. I know that he was traveling, but he's going to try to jump on when he can. And I think he forgot his password to get on or something.
It happens.
He's too busy delivering babies. So the guy's a busy guy. So we will bring him on as soon as I see him jump into the studio. But Dr. Hamada, I think we've been friends for a few years. I'll call you Omar when we're not, but today I'm going to call you Dr. Hamada because I don't need people accusing me of, well, he's a friend of yours, because I know you're going to tell the truth. Yeah. One of the things about you that you've always done that I admire is you speak truth. You do it in love. Sometimes, like me, you have to push the delete button, I'm sure. But
more and more often. More and more often.
More and more often, for sure. But first, I want to say this. Thank you, Dr. Hamada, for your service. Dr. Hamada is also a vet. And in honor of the 4th of July, I've got my USA cup.
Thank you.
I already had my coffee, but I wanted to.
That made me nervous.
But I at least wanted to show off my cup. I love this country.
Thank you for your service, Omar.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Do you remember how we met, Victoria?
I do. We met at the unplanned premiere that I was showing a screening in Nashville, and you came. We had talked before many times through social media, but it was the first time we met in person.
Yeah. So we met around this whole topic of abortion.
We did. And we've been colleagues ever since and friends. And one of the things, we met with Anita and Jim Danaker. I've still got that picture of the four of us, by the way. But I am so happy you came on, because I know it's probably driving you even more crazy than me, being a doctor, listening to all of this fear mongering that's happening throughout the country. But will you tell people, Dr. Hamada, about I know you have a long list of accolades and accomplishments, but can you give just a Reader's Digest about who you are and what you've done?
That's sure. Brent just texted and said he can't get in, so I'm seeing if he can get in through the YouTube channel. But
okay.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, just quickly, 5 M's. So I've got an MBA from Vandy. I do some entrepreneurship stuff and business leadership. I'm not choosing my words well here, but it's been a long night. Still sleep deprived. Military, 14 years, 10 of those in the Special Forces, the Green Berets, airborne combat deployed, and run a little company that we train people in survival and shooting and stuff like that. Music, trained professionally in opera and some classical trumpet, but trained at the Met and also in Vienna when I was younger. Ministry, believe it or not, seminary trained and ordained to preach and all that good stuff. So and let's see what else. Well, medicine, MD. I'm here. And board certified in OBGYN, also in family medicine, and have some additional stuff like sports med, high altitude and flight, and also deep sea and hyperbarics from the military. So I think that's about it.
So in other words,
and you're friends with us because I went to school one time. I got 1 degree.
Because you're funny and lovable, and you guys are great.
So, in other words, bottom line is you're legit. You not only deliver children, and you're not only a doctor who helps people get well, you can kick some real tail.
When I have to.
You're the kind of guy I want to be with in the trenches when they start coming after us.
I'm usually a pretty nice guy. So.
Usually, I can vouch for that.
You know what I found, even in medicine and even in combat, you can always find humor in stressful situations, and I think it's important to. So you see the bigger picture and don't get tunnel vision. So
did you see the funny the thing you sent me of the devil?
Yes.
In the press conference?
Yes, I didn't. That. Yeah, exactly.
It's like that kind of stuff. You're like, it's sad that's even having to be a thing, but it was also in a weird, dark comedy way. I was like, okay, at least we can like make something a little light by, seeing the humor, but also it's actually the truth.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a post-Roe country. I mean, let's just get right into it, Dr. Hamada.
Omar.
Okay, Omar, we're personal friends. It's weird for me to call you. I think even though I had to come see you at the hospital, which, by the way, I'd never let you be my OBGYN. Well, don't have need an OB, but you could never be. There's Brett.
Hopefully she never needs that.
Well, it'd be right now in my life, it'd be an immaculate
But I've
exception.
had friends who have been their gynecologists, so it's
well, not this friend.
Yeah,
Okay, no,
there you
not
go.
happening. Not
Unless you're
happening.
blindfolded.
And you're okay. Anyways, hey, Brett.
Good
Dr.
morning.
Brent Boles is here. He's in his car, but we're so happy you're here, Brett. Before we were just about to get into the conversation, but can you really quickly give everybody that's listening a little bit of a summary of your background and your experience? And then we're going to get right into it because I know people are tuning in because they want some questions answered.
All right. Can you hear me all right?
I can. You're a little, it's a car, but it's okay. We can hear you.
Okay. First baby I delivered turned 31 in January. That was when I was in medical school. So I've been delivering babies for more than 30 years. Graduated from medical school 30 years ago right now. So that's how long I've been involved in women's health care and thinking about these kinds of issues. After finishing training and residency, I've been in practice in one place or another for 26 years, and currently I'm working in Florida.
Okay, so you guys tell me this. Let me ask you this question. When you were going through medical school and you decided that going the OBGYN route was the way you wanted to go, or maybe it doesn't even matter if you choose that career, are you required to perform or view abortions? And if you are, how did you feel about that? And what was that like? We'll start with you, Omar.
Yeah, we were not. And abortion, it was there, and some of the residents in OB would do them as a moonlit. They would make some extra money doing them, and everybody knew my stance. So, I remember once one had a complication, was discussing it with some of the other residents, and I came up and he said, hey, you're not going to like this discussion. I'm like, I'm cool. And, but understanding that people are doing stuff that you don't necessarily agree with. But I was never forced to do it. And I want to hear what Brent has to say, but I want to say one thing too. Brent and I go way back. Back, I think, in 2004 or 5, maybe. We met in 3. Wow. He was moving from Kentucky, and we interviewed him to join our practice. And long story short, he ended up going to Murfreesboro. We had a practice in Smyrna, but we've been friends for 20 years.
Oh, wow. I don't know that I even knew that. I knew you guys had worked with a pregnancy center there, but I didn't know that. So, Brent, what about you? Did you have to watch, or were you required? Was that a requirement back then?
No, it wasn't a requirement. There was an abortion practice that was loosely affiliated with my residency program, where residents could have gone if they wanted to, but during my entire time as a resident, nobody wanted to, because we saw their complications when they came to the ER, and a couple of the physicians that aborted babies at that office delivered babies at one of the hospitals where we worked at. So we saw their exceedingly poor clinical skills on a daily basis. and none of us, not even the pro-choice residents, wanted to have anything to do with them, so we didn't.
Wow.
In fact, in 1995, the American College of OBGYN and its residency review committee established a requirement that every accredited residency in the United States would offer abortion training, but each resident could opt out if they chose to in writing. That edict came down when the year I was the chief administrative resident, and we talked about it as a group, and 23 out of 23 residents opted out because none of us wanted to have anything to do with it.
What state was that, Dr. Boles? What state was that?
Kentucky.
So you guys, have you seen a huge shift? Is it different today than then? Are there more doctors saying, "Oh, I'll watch, I'll perform one. I want to be trained how to do one"? Or are you seeing, I mean, I don't know. I know you're not in school, but what are you hearing? Are there more pro-choice doctors today than there were then? And I mean, I know it's not like the olden days. It wasn't that long ago, but have you seen a shift?
Statistically, 86 to 87% of OBGYNs still do not perform abortions.
Okay, 86 to 87% of OBGYNs do not perform them.
Right, but they are, most are, I think, pro-choice, but yeah, most don't do the procedures. But also a large percentage of abortion providers are not OBGYNs, they're family physicians in a lot of markets.
Which, yeah, so as a physician, you're an OBGYN, you specialize in reproductive health for women. Then you have family physicians, which are the bulk of who performs abortion.
Well, I wouldn't say the bulk, but I mean a large percentage, I believe. Brent may know those numbers better than me.
What would be I guess like a con or like a negative about that? Is it that they're not as well versed, they're not as educated on the procedures, on maybe watching for side effects from it going poorly?
Well, first trimester abortions are fairly simple, and we all do those types of procedures like DNCs and suction DNCs, which is the same thing you use for an elective abortion early. So it's not a complicated procedure. When it gets complicated is further along in the pregnancy, when you can't do a suction DNC, like let's say second or third trimester, when it requires other types of procedures, and those people are highly specialized, so most abortion providers do not do and cannot do those types of procedures.
Okay, well, I want to just correct something I think that you said, because I don't know if you heard what you said, or maybe I heard it wrong. Omar, you said most of us will perform early term abortions. You're not talking about you or Brent. You're talking about most doctors who are performing the abortions.
No, so I don't think I said abortions. Most of us can do procedures like suction DNC, other gynecologic indications, not abortion indications. So what my point was that those are fairly simple procedures that aren't complicated or hard to learn. So most people trained in OBGYN, really everyone trained in OBGYN and most in family medicine, have the skills to do suction DNCs, but that doesn't mean they do abortions.
Well, because
that's a great thing to transition into, is that's the thing that people are losing their mind over. Well, you've had a miscarriage and you required a DNC, therefore you've had an abortion. So I think that's a great transition into you guys dispelling that myth, because that's what I am hearing a ton of, is that, I have a dear friend that miscarried and had to have a DNC. And she said one of her closest friends said to her, well, you're a walking contradiction. You've had an abortion yourself, but yet you're pro-life. And she was like, I miscarried. I had to have a DNC because I was at risk for infection. And so maybe we could talk about
because from what you guys are all in medical. Tawni's a nurse. You guys are physicians. I am a pro-life leader. Okay, I know what I know because of research myself and what I've learned from people like you guys that I respect. But she's right. That's the things that we're hearing right now about with the they're going to let women die now because Roe's been overturned. They're going to have to lay in hospital beds and die. and bleed to death because they can't have the DNCs. But a DNC, and I know the answers to some of these, but I want people to hear, is the removal of a child who has deceased, who has died during a miscarriage, correct?
Yes, I'm glad we're having the chance to talk about this. I actually did a Instagram Live with Lila Rose this week addressing this question because it is such a huge thing. Everybody who has a medical sense about them, who has any medical experience at all, who is jumping on that bandwagon and saying that if you've had a miscarriage, you've had an abortion, and women are going to die because of ectopic pregnancies and abortions, they are flat out liars.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way around it. They are lying, and they're taking women. What that's doing is causing an incredible amount of pain for women who've had a miscarriage or who've had an ectopic pregnancy by telling them that, well, you had an abortion. No, you didn't. You did not. Okay, here's where the confusion comes in. The medical term for miscarriage is a layman's term. The medical term for miscarriage is spontaneous abortion, where the word abortion simply refers to the ending of a pregnancy.
Okay, right.
And that is very different from an induced abortion, one that is chosen and achieved by active means, whether it's surgery or medication or a combination of both. A spontaneous abortion is the miscarriage. That occurs because of illness or injury or defect or something like that, a natural process. And the fact that these pro-aborts, these abortophiles, would look women in the face and tell them, well, you had a miscarriage, you had a DNC, you aborted your baby. Shut up, you liar. I mean, it is so incredibly awful for people to be doing this. It is not. And you can argue till you're blue in the face, and it just proves that leftism is a mental disorder, because you can drag out the crayons and illustrate it, and they still won't. They still don't get it. A DNC is used in a miscarriage to empty the uterus, to take out the already dead baby and the other pregnancy tissues. A DNC in an early abortion is used to kill a living baby. And that's where the difference is. And that's why they're lying every time they say crap like this. I almost said something I shouldn't have.
Hey, Brent, this ain't family friendly, buddy. Hey, Omar, why don't you address the other elephant in the room that people are trying to use for fear mongering to these women, which is ectopic pregnancy, tubal pregnancy. And this is another thing that I'm hearing about. And you know what infuriates me, and I know infuriates Tawni, I have daughters who've suffered miscarriages. If someone walked up to them and said, well, you're a walking contradiction because you had an abortion too, I would literally have to be put in prison. I would go get arrested for them saying that to one of my girls who would not ever choose abortion.
But I want to, before you answer that, Omar, I do want to say what Dr. Boles was saying is the line is the end result of a DNC by spontaneous abortion, also known as a miscarriage, is something that is involuntary. A woman loses her child. She has no control over that. The line is the DNC for the woman who is wanting to terminate and end that pregnancy. That's the difference.
Yep.
So
it's an intentional killing.
Right, and it's not a pro-choice or pro-life thing. I would hope that OBGYNs would be helping to talk about this and helping to say, we're not talking about DNCs equals abortion because you wanted that. A DNC is either chosen for the intent to end the life of your child, or it is medically necessary because you have already lost your baby. There's a huge difference.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's good.
Definitely.
That's
And there are 3 points to make here too. One, I'm so glad Dr. Boles addressed that because it's vitally important, and it's all about languaging. So I don't think that they are not understanding. I think they're being very intentional with confusing language to try to pursue a certain agenda, because they do that all the time in every different area. And the other thing is DNC doesn't stand for Democratic National Committee. It stands for dilation and curettage. So we dilate the cervix and we use a curette to curettage it out, or a suction device to empty the uterus of a dead fetus or other things, to empty the uterus in order to stop the bleeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about, I'm so glad Dr. Boles brought this up, because abortion is a term that we use fairly frequently in medicine, but it doesn't always mean, we have to make that distinction, elective versus spontaneous, right? And like he said, it just means ending a pregnancy, or emptying the uterus, or ending a pregnancy, really. So with ectopic pregnancy, it's basically a live, not viable, but a live pregnancy that has occurred outside of the uterus. So it's not viable. It's not something that's going to be able to live. And it is something that in many instances can and may kill the mother if left alone, especially if it's in the tube. When the tube ruptures, she keeps bleeding until that bleeding stops, whether she stops bleeding because she's out of blood, or whether she stops bleeding because we go in and stop the bleeding. Those things are not elective abortions, right? When we go in and correct or take out an ectopic pregnancy to save mom's life, that's not an elective procedure. If that's something that's going to kill her, and we need to address it. So ectopic pregnancies are not in any way, shape, or form affected by the reversal of Roe, which wasn't making abortion illegal. The reversal of Roe did not make abortion illegal. All the reversal of Roe did was basically say, you know what, it's not in the federal jurisdiction. It's not a constitutional right. And the thing that triggered it was actually this Dobbs case in Mississippi, where they had, from a secular perspective, they had an aggressive but reasonable, secular-wise, legislation that basically said, 15 weeks is what we're going to stop aborting at. Even liberal Europe uses 12 to 14 weeks in most cases. I think Holland and Britain are a little bit more, extended. I think Holland to 20 weeks, Britain, I think, to 23. But the rest of Europe is 12 to 14. Mississippi was saying 15 weeks, but that wasn't good enough. They wanted complete freedom to do abortions all the way to term. So that's when it got challenged. And then everything, Roe got overturned. So go ahead.
So guys, let me ask you this question. Have either one of you, tell us approximately how many babies you have actually delivered in your career? And have either of you ever had to kill the child in an abortion, that not the spontaneous abortion, to save the life of the mother? And because that's, of course, what the pro-abortion side is also spewing, is that you've got to kill the baby to save the mother in so many instances. Is that true?
Brent, you want to take that?
Sure. 30 plus years, getting to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 babies, plus tens of thousands of pregnant women whose care I've been involved with that ended up being delivered by other people. Not one single time have I ever had to intentionally kill a fetus or an embryo to help the life of to save the life of the mother or protect her health. Not once. Never once. Not even once.
Repeat that just for Instagram to hear it, because I know it's fuzzy. But
Yeah.
You 30 plus years OBGYN, involved in 10,000 women in general as far as pregnancy. You've delivered 8,000 yourself. And you're saying never one time have you had to intentionally kill the baby to save the mother's life, ever?
Correct. Not once. I have never had to do that, and I have never lost a mother. I've never had a mother die because she did not get an abortion that would have saved her life. Not once. Not one time. I don't know anybody who has lost a mother who would have been saved by an abortion. Not one.
So it's all about intent, right? So if the intent is to save the life of the mother, we're not going after that baby to kill it. We're trying to get the baby delivered and end the pregnancy that way, and the baby may die in that process. but we're not intending to kill the child. An elective abortion, the intent is to kill the child. So, for example,
the only purpose of abortion is to ensure that the baby is fully dead before fully delivered.
exactly.
Period. Bottom line. Now, have I ever had to work to achieve a delivery for someone who was too early for the baby to survive? Yes. One time in all those years, I had someone whose blood pressure was so bad that she was in heart failure, kidney failure, and liver failure, and her blood was no longer clotting. We had to induce her labor and deliver her at 21 weeks, and the baby was born dead, but she survived and went on to have several more children. I've had other situations where membranes have ruptured at 18, 19, 20, 21 weeks, and the mom is severely infected. You have to induce labor and allow the delivery to happen in order to save the mother from the infection that's occurred. But you never have to go in and intentionally kill the baby first as part of the process. That does nothing but add risk to, if a woman is really sick, why would you add a procedure or a manipulation of some sort that increases her risk? Because that's what the things they do to kill the babies do. They increase the risk. So if the woman's already sick, you're just making things worse by killing the baby first. It's not magical. You kill the baby, you still have to deliver the baby. Well, why don't you just skip the killing part?
Yeah,
And
that's
just
so
deliver
good.
the baby.
So is it physicians then? Because obviously that's a huge hot topic right now. Are just straight up lies? They're not factual. It's not factual information. But is it OBGYNs that are putting that out there and scaring people, or is it just stupid people that are just saying something and then it goes viral?
It's the pro-abortion.
It's both, but I've seen OBGYNs lying and saying the same thing because they're trying to fulfill an agenda. There are two cases in particular that stick in my memory. One, just like Brent, I had a lady who was at 20 weeks who had HELP syndrome, very similar to the lady he was describing, that we had to get delivered. And she was at 20 weeks. The baby was born alive, but died pretty quickly within the hour after delivery. But that was a traumatic event for her and her husband and me, but it was necessary to save her life. But again, the intent was not to take the life of the baby. The intent was to end the pregnancy to save her life. There was a young lady, when I was a senior resident, there was a young lady who had come in for an elective abortion at 26 weeks. And this is the other point I want to make, is they say these late-term abortions don't happen. There's no such thing as a late-term abortion. People don't have abortions at second or third trimester. We know for a fact they do. Hermit Gosnell is sitting in jail in Pennsylvania today because he made a career out of performing late-term abortions all the way up to term and delivering these healthy, otherwise living babies alive and then snipping their spinal cord and killing them.
Yeah.
We know it happens. It's not common. It's not something that happens all the time, but it does happen. But this young lady came in 26, 27 weeks, and the baby was dismembered piece by piece and delivered out of her uterus like that. Unfortunately, she also lost her right kidney and part of her bowel because the uterus was perforated, and the person performing the procedure got other parts of mom, not just baby.
So what I'm hearing from you guys, as I said, I'm glad I'm the one without the medical degree here. But what I'm hearing, and the majority of people listening don't have medical degrees, is that the treatment for a woman in distress who's pregnant is not, let's save her life and kill the baby. We are going to try to treat both patients, mom and baby, by delivering the child to save her life. We may lose the child in the process, but we're not going to kill the child. We want to at least give the child a chance. Is that pretty much?
And even if there's not a chance, you deliver the child and provide comfort measures if the child survives the delivery. You don't go in and pull its arms and legs off to get rid of it while it's just, we don't, nobody in the world executes condemned criminals that way by pulling off their arms and legs. These same people that want unlimited abortion would be screaming at the top of their lungs if you executed a condemned murder by dismemberment.
Brent, they would be screaming at the top of their lungs if you executed an animal that way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's turtle eggs on beaches. Seals, whales, and animals have more rights than these unborn children. And so, can you imagine if someone showed a picture on social media of an animal that they ripped apart, bragging about it? They would be in prison, or the mob would go after them with a vengeance. Yet people are saying a woman should have a right to do that to a human being.
Well, that's the result of having 50 years of an environment where a significant number of people preach an unborn child as if it's a good thing. It's resulted in the most toxic social environment in the history of the world. And the question that was asked earlier about are these doctors that are promoting these things, or are they just people who don't know better? It's both. It is both. It's people who are ignorant and they repeat the sound bites they hear with no more brain power than a parrot uses when it repeats what it's heard. And it's people who know better but sit there and lie about it. There's one TikTok doctor, Dr. Mommy or something. I don't remember her handle. Her name's Danielle Jones. More than 1 million TikTok followers. And she brazenly sat in front of a camera and said, if you've had an ectopic pregnancy treated, you've had an abortion. Wow. If you've had a miscarriage treated, you've had an abortion. Well, the problem she has with that is the American College of OBGYN, the most pro-abortion professional organization in the history of the world, specifically says that treating an ectopic is not an abortion. They have a document on their website, Practice Bulletin number 191. If you want to call me a liar for saying this, go look it up before you do that. Practice Bulletin number 191. It's on ectopic pregnancy. It's 15 to 20 pages. It's got more than 70 references. It talks about how to diagnose an ectopic pregnancy and how to treat an ectopic pregnancy. But you know what word you do not find in that document? Not even once. Abortion. Because treating an ectopic pregnancy is not an abortion. Planned Parenthood's website says treating an ectopic pregnancy is not an abortion.
And now it is.
Even Dr. Jen Gunter, one of the most notorious, obnoxious abortion doctors on the planet, she said on her Twitter feed in 2 big posts back in 2019, we don't call treating an ectopic an abortion because it's not an abortion. It's treating an ectopic. I'm the expert. I know. Now you know.
Well, Brent, is she saying that today, though, post Roe? Is she going out there and reiterating that point that she made 2-3 years ago? Of course not, right? Or is she?
I wouldn't know if she's saying it on Twitter now or not, because she's too much of a coward to debate me. I challenged her once on Twitter on a scientific point, and she responded not with science, but by saying, sweetie, debating you is below my pay grade, and I'm not going to come to the church basement to talk to you. And then she blocked me, so I don't get to see what she posts, but that's no big loss for me.
It's funny, isn't it, Omar, how when we challenge people on this issue, they run. They're cowards, or they have no question, or then they start you don't care about it, you're just pro-birth. You don't care about the baby after it's born. You don't care about anything except abortion, and taking a woman's rights away. And then when you're trying to discuss with them, okay, well, let me tell you what I have done for those women in crisis pregnancies. Let me tell you what others have done that are pro-life, that are more pro-life people are fostering children. More pro-life people are inviting unwed mothers into their homes. More pregnancy resource centers are doing more than, let's be frank, some of the churches in this country for young women who are in crisis pregnancies. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear the truth. So are you seeing the same thing, Omar, with people that challenge someone like you, that they run away or disappear, or as they say today, ghost you?
Yeah, and it's not just with this topic. It's about many topics in today's society. And the problem is that people have lost the art and the ability to discuss things rationally and logically and come to a joint conclusion. Instead, they want what they want, and their feelings and emotions get involved, and they just flood. And instead of discussing things logically and rationally, they basically try to invalidate you, call you names, and you're a misogynist, and men shouldn't be discussing this anyway, and whatever the excuses are.
Don't you think most people, Omar, are too lazy? I mean, to go and just do the research themselves. They instead listen to these talking heads, or they follow 1 million followers that this woman has
Sure.
on TikTok.
And they think it's about other things like women's rights and whatever the word of the day is, and they don't fully understand, but they're just biased. I mean, they want what they want. They're being clouded by what they want instead of what really makes sense and what's scientific. Same thing you saw with the immunizations, right? It's what people want and fear, and their emotions overwhelm their brain. And I think it's up to us to be consistent, provide the truth, sometimes push back a little bit, but be truthful in what we say and try not to get our emotions involved.
That's good. Tawni has something about you. You have a pretty passionate about he's just brought up immunizations, about vaccines, mandates, and people who are. What is it that you always say about how people want to force you to do mandate?
Oh, I always find the irony in I don't even like to say like the left and the right, because I just don't like to.
Well, because we have found that people we thought were Christians that believed since Roe are pro-choice and angry about Roe being overturned. That's been a whole other kind of mind-blowing experience for me, is to see some people that I really thought believed in the value of life angry about Roe being overturned.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. It's crazy, isn't it? But that's something that we need to address. We need to be able to address, okay, so these women now, they're having babies. How are we going to support them? How are we going to come alongside and help them? Yeah.
I always say, like, pro-life is 2 parts. It's protecting the unborn and meeting the mom where she's at. Mm-hmm. And being pro-life is not just, I'm going to put my nose up to you and say, you can't have an abortion. Good luck. Or you shouldn't have slept around. Good luck, with your pregnancy. It's 2 parts. It's protecting the baby while simultaneously supporting the mom. But what I find the irony in is wherever I stand on vaccines and the medical freedom that I think as a parent, as an adult, I should have to choose if I want to vaccinate myself, my children. And I just find the irony in the push from mostly left people, left way of thinking, who push and push my body, my choice, but not when it comes to someone who identifies as a conservative, probably obviously more right-sided. Then it's not my body, my choice. And you were saying there was a gentleman that was like, come to Canada, get all the abortions you want, but you have to be vaccinated to come here.
Prime Minister.
And I'm like, isn't that truly like talking out of 2 sides of your mouth? It
is talking out of 2 sides of your mouth. I just find that,
again, make your own decision when it comes to a vaccine. You have the medical freedom. That's the beauty of having that medical freedom or having exemptions. Yeah. But we're not talking about a vaccination. We're talking about ending life. And there's a huge difference.
Exactly. And we're not taking away a woman's choice or ability to choose. A woman has a choice who, when, how, where she sleeps with somebody.
That's right.
She has a choice which contraceptive she uses to protect herself or makes the guy use. Those are choices. What isn't a choice is ending the life of another individual out of convenience or inconvenience. But the choices are still there. They're not being taken away. What is being pursued in some states is more protections for children. That's it.
Now, you guys, but let's talk. We have to address this then, because people that are listening, Omar and Brent, are going to say, yeah, but what if it's not her choice? And they bring up the rape situation, which is very real. Yes, women are raped and it's horrific. And the man who raped her should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. And he doesn't even get the sentence that the unborn child sometimes does. But less than 1% of women in this country who are raped become pregnant. And I'm not saying those less than 1%, they don't matter. But what I am saying is we have to address the rape issue, because that is the thing that the pro-abortion side has clung to and convinced people that all women are getting pregnant. They have to have that option to not carry that child. In my 25+ year career counseling women who are either considering abortion or who already had abortions, I've had 2 who were raped, 2, and that became pregnant from a rape. And one chose abortion, looked me in the eyes and said, when I realized that child was not only my rapist child, but mine, it was like another trauma on top of the trauma of my rape. But everyone around me was saying, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. You don't want to be reminded. The other woman who gave birth to her child gave him up for adoption to a couple who couldn't have children. And she said, God took something so ugly, my rape, and he made something beautiful out of it. But that, by me being able to give my child away and giving birth to my son, but that is the argument. Can you address that, one of you, about the rape issue?
Go for it, Brent.
Can you hear us, Brent? Or maybe I've said all there is to say.
I think you have. And I think, the issue is that it is a living child. And I think you made a good point of, should that child have to pay a bigger penalty than the rapist even? And I've heard the same things as you have in terms of women who've been raped, who've chosen to have the child, have loved that child because it is her own, despite the circumstances under which it was conceived. Every woman I've known, and there haven't been that many, who've been raped, who've had children from those rapes, have been glad that they have.
Yeah, and what's sad is people that are born as a result of rape.
Yeah.
People that are born with a
They feel.
disability, people that are born with XYZ of what everyone says you should be able to get rid of a child if it has this or this. How do you think they feel to basic? I mean, I've said to people before, would you walk up to that guy who one of my good friends, Stephen Holland, is a product of rape. And he is so happy to be alive. I can't imagine someone walking up to him saying, your mom should have killed you.
Yeah.
I mean, what is wrong? While I have 2 OBGYN doctors, I want to talk really quickly about the abortion pill, because now we're offering abortion by mail. I'm convinced the pro-abortion side knew this could possibly happen with Roe being overturned, so they had to come up with more ways of streams of income. And because we all know they're a multi-billion-dollar industry, the abortion industry's number 1 product is abortion. It is not pap smears and mammograms. Call a Planned Parenthood and ask them for one. They don't do them. Call a Planned Parenthood and ask them for some diapers. Ask them for some help because you just had a child out of wedlock. They're not going to help you like a pregnancy resource center will help you, which in turn they're attacking the pregnancy resource centers. But I am having more and more, you guys, women reach out to me who've taken the abortion pill and delivered their fully intact children over the toilet. Children that these people have told them there's nothing there. It's just going to be a bunch of tissue that you'll see pass, because they're either further along than they've told the doctor to get those abortion pills, because they know if they're over 10 weeks, they're not going to get them. And when the doctor over the phone or the nurse says, how far along are you? Out of fear, these young women are saying, well, how far along do I need to be? Can't be over 10 weeks. Oh, I'm 8. They send them the pill and they're not even monitoring them. Well, here's one of the questions that I've got. Women have contacted me, you guys, and said, I called the abortion clinic that gave me the pills and told them I changed my mind. And I begged them to tell me, is there anything I can do? And they've said, no, nothing you can do. You've already taken that first pill. Your baby's going to be mentally handicapped or born with all kinds of deformities. And they paint this ugly picture of what's going to happen to them. If the abortion side cares so much about women, you guys, why not tell them about the abortion pill reversal? Why not tell them there's a chance their child could be saved? It's so simple, because it's all about greed. It's all about money, and that's the bottom line. So can you guys just talk about the abortion pill a little bit, of how that happens and how the abortion pill reversal, it can't save all children, but it has saved over 4,500 to date.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up and for giving us the chance to talk about it. like everything else with the abortion issue, those who are pushing the abortion side are lying about it. They lie about the safety of the abortion pill. They like to say that it's safer than Tylenol. It's not. There's good data from Europe that says you're 4 times more likely to have a complication from a medication abortion than you are from a surgical abortion. So it's most definitely not safer than Tylenol. Even their own study that they just came out with that they claim shows that that it's safe to do this by mail order and not evaluate people in person. Even that study admits that one of the women who took it aborted her 33-week baby and delivered it at home in their study. But they don't comment on that being a problem. So anyway, yes, they tell patients that there's nothing you can do, but that's not true. The first pill in the medication abortion blocks the action of progesterone. So if a person changes her mind before she has taken the pills that cause labor and her baby is still alive, if she takes progesterone to overcome the progesterone blocker, then 2/3 of the time the baby can be saved. It's basic science supports the idea. Animal data supports the idea. Human data supports the idea. And the human experience supports the idea. They have proven that they are not advocates for women. They are not advocates for choice. They are only advocates for abortion. And that's why they tell women that, no, there's nothing you can do. They lie to them. They look them straight in the face and say no. They say things like, if you don't finish the process, your baby's going to have birth defects. Well, ACOG says there aren't any birth defects associated with the abortion pill when a baby survives it. Jehnke Pharmaceutical swore to the FDA in getting it approved that it doesn't cause birth defects. So, there's little truth that they tend to ignore.
So it really brings home the point, Brent, that the bottom line is the abortion industry is about money. It's not about caring about women's health and women's rights. I mean, let's be honest. If they did care, they would say to that young woman who's calling them, begging them for a way to save her child after taking the first pill, they would immediately help her. And what I don't understand is, or I do understand, but it proves that point. They've already taken her credit card number and she's already paid for the abortion pills. What is it going to hurt them to tell her to call or to go to abortionpillreversal.com?
Here's what it does. And there's a notorious abortion researcher, Dr. Daniel Grossman. He is on the payroll of Jehnke Pharmaceuticals. He makes money by getting research grants from pro-abortion organizations to produce fake research that supports abortion. In an interview with Slate magazine, he admitted why they don't like talking about reversal. And he said, we don't want the concept of reversal or the discussion of reversal to affect the public's perception of abortion regret. They want people to believe that women decide to have an abortion, they have, and then regret it, and that they never change their minds. That's what he wants people to believe. And he admitted that when he said, we don't want a discussion of reversal to affect the public's perception of abortion regret.
No, that infuriates me. That infuriates me when I'm dealing with men and women who have regret from their abortion, who are living these traumatic experiences and having to deal with it. That pisses me off is a better word, because that's how mad it makes me. It just, gosh, that just angers me so much.
It hurts their narrative, because then you think about one girl tells her friend, hey, guess what? I reversed it. I have this baby. I'm so happy. And then it gets, like everything, it snowballs into going, everybody's finding out about it, and then it hurts what they're pushing. And it paints a picture like what that guy said, is that it's not foolproof that you may not regret it. They don't want anyone to think that you ever regret abortion, or else their industry is done.
And you know what, you guys, I had a girl who was at one of my last retreats 3 or 4 times ago in Texas. And when we were all sitting around in a group session, the first day, when we got to her to introduce herself, she was crying but smiling. This is what she said. 18 and 19 years ago, I had an abortion, 1 year apart, 2 abortions. And she said, all these years when I have went to research or Google, is my depression stemmed from my abortions? Is this because of my abortions? Is this, everything told me, no, there's no correlation to depression or any of those things and your abortions. And all these years I thought I was crazy, that I was the only person on this earth who felt the way I felt, that something was wrong with me because of what I was reading online. And now I've heard all your stories of the things you have dealt with since choosing abortion. And I feel like my healing's already begun. I'm not crazy. And that's why I get so angry and incensed about the fact that we do not talk more about how abortion affects women and also how it affects men, because it is not just women who are affected. Men are suffering from an abortion as well. It is not natural to kill our own children. It is just not natural.
But also it affects the men and women as the parents, but also I mean the things people say right now about, like what Mom mentioned earlier, if you're raped. So Mom has a friend, as she said, that was conceived through rape. How does he feel with all the garbage that he hears about the quality of his life? Gosh, your mom should have just been done with you and aborted you. What about a parent who's raising a kid with Down syndrome? I think in the Netherlands, their Down syndrome rate is 2 children a year are born with Down syndrome, because they have basically eradicated Down syndrome because they have a 99% abortion rate if Down syndrome is detected. They will literally be a country and they'll have no one with Down syndrome because they don't want to have a child with Down syndrome. How does that make any child feel? Hopefully they don't hear these things, but how does that make a mom and dad feel when you see a country that displays, we just want perfection. We don't want special needs.
Which they're never going to get. They're dealing with human beings.
So it's like, I always tell people, I think for me, I don't like making it a Christian topic, because I think you get a lot of non-Christians to just stop listening to you. As soon as you bring in God or religion or the Bible, to me, I would like to believe, even if I was an atheist, and I have had people message me that are atheists that say, I'm with you, I'm an atheist, but I'm pro-life, because why do we get to decide what life is valuable? The way a child is conceived or made determines if they should have a chance at living. We don't get to make that determination, period. It's not because, well, I'm a Christian, so I have to think this way. I just think because I'm a human that I think this way.
These people like to lecture us and tell us, you can't impose your religious views on me. Well, in a way, they're imposing their religious views on everybody else, because it is a religious view to believe that you can play God and decide who lives and who dies and who has a life that's worthy of living and who doesn't. That's playing God.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good, Brent.
Religious.
Yep.
That is religious.
Yeah. Omar, you have some words you want to say?
I think we've covered it really well.
Yeah, I do too.
And-
I can't thank you guys enough. I think that for me, and I think I could probably speak for you guys, and my daughter has been pro-life since she was a teenager, and I never thought I would see the overturning of Roe in my lifetime. I never did. And I always felt, I would hear other people so convicted and so adamant and confident that it would happen. And I would say, yeah, well, we can keep on praying. But really, I'm just being honest, I never thought I'd see it. But I think it's so God speaking of him, that we have one of the most pro-death, pro-abortion presidents and administrations in our country today, and that's when God chooses to overturn Roe. I think that people can hate President Trump all day long. I really don't care. The guy, yeah, he's a little bit of an ass, true. But he did more for the pro-life movement than any president has ever done. And it's because of him appointing those 3 Supreme Court nominees that we're even here. So that's why we need to really be conscious of who we vote for. And I'm sure the other side's thinking the same thing. Oh my gosh, now we've got to go to the polls in November.
But now it's congressionally it's done. So like people who are
not
making
Biden
this
has his way. He's already trying to. His cronies are trying to figure out.
It won't. It's to the state. So if you have an issue that you can't go have your abortions and pop your abortions like candy, go to a state where you can, because it's going to go back to the state. Get out of a blue state, get out of a red state, go and live where you feel like you're getting the freedom that you think you deserve. But this, again, it's a fear tactic. We're making people think, got to get to the polls. Congressionally, it's done. So, like, go to a state where you feel like you have the freedom that you think you deserve.
What were you going to say, Brent? Is your hand up?
Yeah, I've got a warning for people in the legislature, Congress, state level legislatures, doesn't matter. Too many of you who call yourselves Republicans and stand on the campaign platform and beat your chest and talk about how you're pro-life, but then you go to the Tennessee Senate and you go to Congress and you go to places and then lecture us on how it's not the right time to attack Roe versus Wade and how it can't be overturned and how the things that we wanted you to pass were not constitutional. Well, you know what? You can't hide behind Roe anymore.
Yeah.
You can't do it, and we're coming for you.
It's not just legislators, but it's also supposed pro-life national organizations and state-level organizations that do the same exact thing.
That is very true. And you know that I'm so glad you said that, Omar, because you and I have had conversations about this, and Brent, you and I have as well. There are some pro-life organizations that wouldn't get a dime of my money. And they are behind that. It's big business, I guess. I don't know. Here I am, trying to run my little nonprofit to help as many people as I can, but big business. I always say support your local pregnancy resource centers first. If you want to support a pro-life organization, support them first. Live Action is another wonderful pro-life organization that is doing incredible things. Those are two of the ones that I would say go support Reassemble, my nonprofit, for helping men and women and educating the public on how an abortion affects men and women. But make sure you do your research, because just because someone says they're pro-life, just because an organization stands for and says they're pro-life, does not necessarily mean when the rubber hits the road, they're pro-life.
So two things. One, I think as talking to legislators, as legislators, be wise and don't be stupid. I mean, some stupid things have been happening. For example, there was a legislator in Oklahoma that I think a couple of years ago tried to pass legislation, which thankfully did not pass, regarding ectopic pregnancies, and saying what they needed to do was not take them out but reimplant them. I mean, it's stupidity. And I think that's where where a lot of this anger came from, and a lot of the misunderstanding of the left. And likewise, there then was a Democratic female legislator in Georgia, I believe, who tried to pass a law saying male masturbation should be criminalized because you're killing sperm cells. But then something else happened in California in the legislature, where they basically removed any homicidal protections in the first 28 days of life. In other words, if a child died after birth, within 28 days of birth in the neonatal period, then no investigation would be done, no medical exam or autopsy would be done, essentially saying, if you take your baby home and don't like it, I mean, that's not the purpose, but at the same time, that's essentially what it did. The other thing I wanted to say, and this is very important, that I'm getting this message from someone in the know, there will be an effort for Congress to pass a federal law basically codifying Roe. So the left will try to pass a federal law in Congress that will codify Roe. And then just because the justices took out the right to abortion the fake constitutional right that didn't ever exist doesn't mean that Congress can't pass a federal law restricting what states can do, or at least try to. So I think, Congress this session or next session may try to, come around and do something else. So it's important. The elections are important. And it's important that we take out the fake pro-life ones and put in real pro-life legislators.
Yeah, and we're on to them. We're on to them. This has been a great way for them to be exposed. Everything that's been happening with Roe. And look at our Supreme Court. We found out things from our own Supreme Court justices that we may not have known before. So any last words, you guys? I want to give Tawni, why don't you start? Any last words you want to say? And then I want to go to Brent and to Omar.
My kids slept terrible and I'm very tired.
Well, I'm glad you made it. Guys, what about you? Omar, Brent, you guys are awesome, but I'd love to hear any last words or something else we haven't talked about that you want to cover.
No, I think we've covered it. I think we're good. And I'm proud of the court. They've made huge changes over these past couple of weeks, this session, and they've done a great job.
Agreed.
I agree with Omar. I'm really grateful for the court we have right now, and I would just like to see some apologies from some of these evangelicals for Biden who told people that this stuff doesn't matter. I know we'll never get it, but I'm not going to miss an opportunity to call them out.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing, you guys.
Wait, I do have last words.
Oh,
Thank you, Doctor. My last word to identifying professing Christians. Again, I'm not talking to anybody except for if you identify and profess to be a Christ follower, you should be celebrating the overturning of Roe V Wade and now feeling more called to rise up and take action in this fight for the unborn. And if you don't have that feeling, you either are an infant Christian, you are brand spanking new to the faith and don't understand God's stance on abortion, or you are fully watered down in your way of thinking and you really need to go back to his word because it is so simplified in there for Christians. I am not understanding the people I've seen who I thought were Christian conservative farther in their faith that feel disheartened and angry and so sad for their children to grow up in a world like this. And I'm thinking, you're sad your future grandchildren can't be easily aborted? I do not understand. I literally can't comprehend how it's not so clear in Scripture.
Ultimately, it's a spiritual issue, and we're looking at two different worldviews. We don't see eye to eye, and the darkness can't comprehend the light, and we can't comprehend the dark, and we're talking past each other in a lot of ways. I mean, they believe as fiercely about what they believe as we believe as fiercely.
Yeah, it's true. And a friend of mine recently said to me, you guys, she said, Vic, when you pray about your future husband, what do you pray? And I was going through, I pray for him every day. Lord, keep his faith strong and the Christian man and this. And here's what she said to me. 90% of people identify as Christian in this country, in the United States. 90% plus, I think it is. Or that's what she was telling me. She said, do you really believe if that many people were actual, true Christ followers, we'd be in the condition in this country that we're in? So Vic, stop praying for a Christian man and start praying now for a godly man, because there's a difference. And she's right. I've had Christian men say things to me and I'm like, check, please. You're a Christian? It blows my mind, the stuff that comes out of their mouth. And I see Christian men and women making choices that I'm going, what Bible are you reading? So I'm saying there is a difference today, anyway, between now saying I'm Christian or I'm serving or I'm godly. And unfortunately, it's just the truth. And I believe that we are being tested, we're being separated, and people better open up their eyes to see about many, many issues, not just this one, Omar, as you alluded to earlier. There's a lot of different issues that people are fighting about, and I'm talking about amongst the church. When a pastor can't stand on a Sunday morning last Sunday, like I heard from many of my followers, their pastor said nothing. about Roe being overturned. It's time for you, buddy, to get a job at Lowe's. You don't belong in that pulpit.
Or Home Depot. Don't
Depot. The point is, if you cannot stand boldly for life, do you really belong in any pulpit? Because I'm convinced that's the reason we are seeing what we're seeing amongst the church and Christians, because their pastors, their church leaders have failed them with speaking the truth about all kinds of sin in the church, and they're doing them a disservice. And so you guys are awesome. God bless you guys. Would love to bring you back again one day. You know, I love you both. I highly respect you both. I am honored to call you my friends.
Thanks. Same here. Ditto.
Same here, Victoria. Thank you.
Go deliver those babies, guys.
All right.
Push.
Breathe.
Go to sleep, Omar. You worked all night.
Yeah, thanks.
Talk to
Yeah,
you
have a good
soon.
night.
Bye.